Hi, vacation rental owner or manager. Welcome to Step Up Your STR, the podcast about specialized decorating for max revenue. In this episode, I'm sharing my 4 favorite paint colors that really do work every time. Hello, in this episode, I am opening my treasure vault and sharing my 4 favorite amazing white wall colors that I recommend to clients all the time. White on walls is foundational to my specialized decorating process. They're part of what I call the Trinity. They're white walls, vivid color, and something Instagrammable. Those are the 3 elements that will make the biggest difference in getting you a space that really stands out online. And when your rental stands out online, it's more clickable. And clicks lead to bookings, which lead to revenue. These white paints are clean and neutral and very versatile. They're the perfect backdrop for any STR. And I have a free printable for you to download. Please do listen to this podcast though, because I'll share a lot of details on these 4 favorite paint colors. And then if you'd like a summary to have on hand, that's what's in the printable. And I'll give you the link for that in later in the episode. Now, before I get into the specific colors, I just want you to think how paint is. It's more than just decoration. It is your foundation. It's the bedrock for your room. Your walls are like the canvas of your rental. They set the tone. They can make the space feel fresh or claustrophobic, clean or dirty, cohesive or chaotic. Think about when you walk into a beautiful vacation rental. What's the first thing you notice? Probably it's how clean and bright and welcoming it is, how it feels. And for this reason, I always recommend using white or very, very pale wall colors. They're universally appealing and they make a space look bigger, cleaner, and inviting. I sometimes compare white walls to a fine dining experience. Fancy restaurants use white plates because they give a lovely backdrop to the food, and you can always see how clean that plate is. This is similar to white walls. They give a beautiful backdrop to your great furniture, and they feel clean, which is what guests want first and foremost. They want clean. Light walls also photograph beautifully, and that's critical for your online listing. Remember, your photos, the decor, that's your first line of contact with a potential guest, and you want it to make a good impression. Guests will click based on how great your space looks. All right, as kind of a big picture view, here are some main guidelines. I have some notes here I'm going to look at. Okay, number 1, stick to white or very, very pale neutrals, as mentioned, because these give your space a clean slate feeling. They're versatile and they work with any decor style, whether your rental is coastal or modern, Western, mountain house. These shades that I'll share will complement your style. Number 2, this is a caveat. Don't use white if the room has no windows, because white looks drab in windowless rooms. I'm going to say that again. Don't use white in windowless rooms. The colors I'll share today are whites because almost all rooms do have windows. But on that freebie I mentioned, I include a go-to color for windowless rooms. If you want to learn what that color is, find the freebie. It's linked in the description at vrdecor.co/paint. Number 3, test swatches on every wall. If you're thinking of changing your paint, keep in mind that colors look different depending on lighting. There's natural light, artificial light, the time of day, the direction that your windows face, and those all affect how a color appears. So always test a big, large swatch on each wall. And I'm talking at least 3 feet by 3 feet. And you'll do that so you can see how the color reads in your space throughout the day. An expert tip here is to paint a stark white strip around your swatch so that that new paint color isn't influenced by the current wall color right beside it. An outline of white around your swatch gives a buffer and gives you a more clear view of what the true color will be in your room. And number 4, choose the right sheen. For walls in an STR, I almost always recommend a satin sheen. It's durable, easy to clean, and gives a subtle finish that's not too shiny and definitely not flat. So there are different shininess levels to paint colors. You probably already know that, from flat all the way to high shine. And a satin finish is kind of in the middle. So it's very easy to clean. Flat is not easy to clean. And it doesn't draw attention to itself like shiny walls will draw attention to themselves. So I almost always recommend a satin sheen. That's your safe spot. All right, now for the fun part, my top 4 paint colors. All these colors, FYI, are made by the Benjamin Moore Paint Company. Number 1, White Dove. This is a soft white with just a hint of warmth and a tiny touch of gray. It never looks yellow, which can be a common issue with warm whites. White Dove works beautifully in any room, or at least 95% of the rooms that I've seen. And White Dove pairs well with all kinds of decor. So if you're unsure of what to choose, White Dove is my go-to recommendation. Number 2, this paint color is called Classic Gray, but don't let the name fool you. This isn't gray. It's actually a perfectly balanced pale neutral. In my opinion, it's the most perfectly balanced, very pale neutral. It's not warm or cool, so it works in virtually any lighting condition. If you're looking for something that is very subtle, but has a little bit of color and it's very sophisticated, this is it. Number 3, Wind's Breath. Wind's Breath is a really soft, warm neutral that's ideal for north and east facing rooms, which tend to have this cool bluish light that comes in. Wind's Breath balances that cool light with just a little bit of warmth. And it's really lovely, especially in bedrooms and cozy, smaller living spaces. Finally, Balboa Mist. If you need a cool-toned neutral, like west and south-facing rooms often do need, Balboa Mist is your best friend. It has a very subtle light gray undertone, which balances the warm light in west and south rooms, those rooms that have windows that face west and south. This shade is really chic and timeless, and it creates a very high-end look. Okay, I do have one more color that's just as fantastic as the 4 I've shared. I mentioned that this bonus color is what I almost always recommend for windowless spaces. I wanted to focus just on whites today, so I'm keeping that 5th bonus color exclusive to my freebie. And to get the list of all 5 paints, go to my website. It's linked below at vrdecor.co/paint. And sign up there to get the freebie. It's a nice printable that you can keep right on hand. Before we wrap up, here are a few final tips. If you are redecorating your STR, paint the walls first. When it comes to the actual doing, the actual execution of the order of decor, paint should happen first. And remember that it's also one of the most cost-effective ways to transform your property. A can of paint costs $40 or $50, and it can give you a whole new look. When you have your light walls, pair them with some vivid color in your decor. Remember that homey trinity. I have a friend who calls it the homey trinity. It's white walls, vivid color, and something Instagrammable. When you pair your light walls with some vivid color in like pillows, art, rugs, that will create a really eye-catching space online. Eye-catching is super duper important because it leads to clicks, which lead to bookings, which lead to revenue. Choosing the right paint color is just the beginning. Once your walls are done, that's when you can focus on layering in your color, textures, patterns, and lighting, and that will all bring your space to life. That's it for today's episode. I hope this guide to white paint colors has inspired you to maybe refresh your STR walls. And if you do, make sure to include new photos on your listing. Once again, you can find the printable PDF that accompanies this episode on my website. It's linked below. It's vrdecor.co/paint. White or very, very pale walls are foundational. They're one of the Trinity, those three most important elements to create an amazing space that earns you max revenue. Thanks for listening. And if you'd like to hear more about white walls, I'll link an additional episode or two in the description, and you can listen to those. I look forward to talking again next time.